Hey friends, welcome back to Artists of the Way. I'm John, the host. Today we have an episode that I have been wanting to do pretty much since I started the podcast. I'm inviting back onto the podcast Jordan Naw and Nate Knobloch, both of whom have been on the podcast before. And the three of us are going to have a conversation about having played Jesus and what that exactly entails and what that's done to us in our spiritual life, what that experience was as an actor. I know quite a few people who've played Jesus, so when I started the podcast, I thought that would just be a really cool, rich discussion to dissect what is that experience like? How is that important to you? Because it was really important to me. This is a wonderful discussion. It's going to be a two-part episode because we just kept going and going and going because we were talking about Jesus, so you could go all day. It's going to be an audio-only episode. I will release a video version when I'm able to get it edited, but right now, with Godspell, we're running a little low on time. But it's a wonderful conversation. I'm excited for you guys to check it out. So how are you guys doing?
Good. Pretty good.
Yeah. Jordan, you're in person. You're in state.
Yeah. This
so
is my
that's
first
cool.
in-person episode.
Mm-hmm. What brings you back to state?
A little thing called Godspell.
Oh,
What?
That's the only reason he's back, not his family or anything.
Well,
just
yeah,
me.
no, I'm back to be back in town and
Mm-hmm.
to just reconnect with people.
Yeah.
After being gone for 2 years.
That's gonna be awesome.
And also a little thing called Godspell.
Hey.
Which
we're
that
all
at least
on.
helped give like a time frame of how long
Of like
I'll be
when
back.
yeah.
Instead of
Oh.
being like, I'll just go, and then
Mhm.
I don't know how long. That at least was like, okay, 2 months,
Yep.
and
That'll
yeah,
be nice.
So
Nice. Nate, how's life? Why are you still in Michigan?
yeah, why are you still here? Get out of here.
I've been visiting for the past 30 years. But this is where my wife and child are frequently. So I see them sometimes.
The old
can
ball and chain.
No ball and chain. What can you do?
So I wanted to have you guys on. I've had this idea for basically a year. Sorry to everybody who just heard me scooch my chair up awkwardly. I just so
At least we
unprofessional.
talked about it.
I like to draw attention to the awkward things, and
And it's
Shay hates
okay.
it when I do that. She's like, "Stop it! You don't need to do that." And I'm like,
I
"But
definitely
think I'm
don't
gonna
say
keep
that out loud when I'm in the car listening to it, and you say something like, "You didn't need to do that, John." But it's so John, and I love it.
It is.
That's true.
But I've had this idea about a year where I was like, I know a lot of people who've played Jesus, so I want to talk to some people about it. And we're all in Godspell, and we were talking just a little bit about your experience, Jordan.
This is the 3 Jesus Godspell.
We're the Trinity on stage.
I was trying
Some
to,
of us are more transparent than others.
I was trying to find a moment to make a joke that one of us is here because Jim Caviezel canceled.
That's right. I'm representing Jim today.
Yeah.
He told me what to say.
That's Nate, because he's playing Jesus. He hasn't played, so
Yeah,
you're in the middle of
you're
it,
in the-
so
Yeah.
you're here to also be a conduit for Jim Caviezel.
That's right. Who has past tense?
Right.
the Jim Caviezel.
I could still get canceled for my role before I actually
And
play him.
Jim Caviezel is a speed dial away. Do phones still have speed dial?
Yeah.
They do?
I'm pretty sure that's what just having a contact in your phone is. You just
And like,
hit-
But I mean, like,
your
when you
favorite.
sign the
speed dial
number.
is like one button.
Right.
And done.
But it used to be
But if you have a contact, it's now just
Oh.
one button and done. So basically, everyone's on
true.
speed dial.
But I'm a little melancholy now because everybody used to have a number in my phone.
Oh.
And now they don't. That's how it used to be with flip phones.
Do you have
You should have a
personalized ringtones
ranking.
for
There
anybody?
you go. I don't because I always leave it on vibrate. So
Any personalized
Shay-
vibrations?
no, although you can do that on the iPhone.
Yeah.
You can like set a
You
pattern.
can kind of like tap.
I
how
tried
you
to
want
do
it
that
be.
at one point, and then I gave up because I'm a lazy person. So.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Identify with that.
this is going to be like an hour and a half long podcast just because we're going to keep going.
Just make it a special episode. Be like,
Yeah.
wonderful.
It's an
It's
extended.
an extended cut.
We're
It's
going to
the
frame
Jesus
it as
episode, so
we're doing an
it's
gotta be
extended
the
episode
longest.
about Jesus, and then they're going to be like half of this
Do you
episode is
ever
them talking
tap your
about
phone to
speed
make it
dial.
vibrate personally?
But we've all So we've all played Jesus, and we're all together working on Godspell, and I wanted to just hear some of your experience doing it with, oh my gosh, I forgot the name, Piercing Word. And I'm curious kind of what's going on with you. So I just kind of wanted to sit down, the three of us, and talk about what that's been like. So first, what was the project that you guys played Jesus in, or are playing Jesus in, if one of you is playing Jesus currently?
Could be one of us.
It could be anyone. It could be in this room.
Me.
Surprise, surprise, John is actually playing Jesus in his own production of Godspell.
I have. I've kicked Nate out.
You just need a placeholder until it's showtime.
Nate is there so I can watch it. Actually, Nate.
The way you did this was kind of heretical, so...
So for the sake of the church, I need to
Can I at least sit in your director's chair?
No.
Not with the amount of heresy you were throwing on stage, mister. So, Nate, what are you playing Jesus in?
It's Godspell. Ever heard of it? Yeah. So I'm going to be playing Jesus if we get there.
If we get there.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not like the director's in the room with you right now.
I know. What's unique about that show and that take on Jesus in your perspective?
Well, it's just like a different than any other part to play, right?
Oh yeah.
Because this is a real person, historical, who's currently alive too.
Yeah.
And who is like the perfect person, and who's your God. And you're trying to not make him something that he's like not, which is like, of course, we're never really going to do because we can't be him,
right?
No matter how hard we try. So whatever I do is just going to be some fading facsimile of it, but hopefully there's enough there to like help people have a visual, and put some flesh on what's usually just words.
Like a healthy version of what an icon in theory was, of like
right.
They can look at this to reference it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, so one of my approaches has been I've been impacted by a book about Jesus called Gentle and Lowly, where it talks about how the one place where Jesus talked about his own heart was where he said, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for I am gentle and lowly at heart." So the one time he described his own heart, he could have said anything, like, "I'm high and exalted, I am joyful," which he is, but what he chose to say is, "I am gentle and lowly," which is very unexpected. But the book then breaks down like why that's a great thing, that our God is gentle and lowly, and he's gentle towards us. And so trying to have some of that in mind while playing the character. And then also I was really impacted by listening to you talk about how when you played Jesus, and because I remember you talking about, like, as you look at your fellow, like, the disciples, these are like, oh man, these are people who I made, and I just love them so much. And like the idea that you talked about, I'm just stealing your part of the show.
So John, do you want to go and just let him talk?
Nate is the representative for both Jim Caviezel and me, and I'm gonna go have lunch with Shay. So
Yeah, but just like the idea of looking at people and like, I just love you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big thing for me.
That is cool. I feel like I'm hearing you like have a couple keywords that it feels like are kind of unifying for your vision of how your the aspects of Christ that you're representing. And I feel like that was true for me too, where it was like you said, he's so much more than anything I can portray.
Yeah.
But I can do my best with what I have and what God made me to reveal part of him and whatever of him is in me. And so what I ended up latching onto was like, I think loving creator. Those were not the words that I necessarily named then, but in retrospect, like those were my two things of like, this is my creation, I get to enter it and play around and get to actually, like, I know them,
Right.
but now I get to physically be present with them. That's exciting, and I love them so much. I think the most powerful thing for me connected to that was when I was thinking about his crucifixion, because my Jesus, or the Jesus I portrayed, my Jesus. Getting like Gollum. Jesus.
You're precious.
Time to knock me. He is my precious.
Yeah.
Because everybody's precious. But there's a point in a song where he like looked ahead at like what was coming in Jerusalem, which was Atlanta in our production, because it was Cotton Patch Gospel.
Yeah.
I guess I'm answering the question now.
Yeah.
I'm now answering my
Which
own
I was
question.
going to ask you because I was trying to remember.
Do you want to ask me?
Yeah, John, what did you play? What was your Jesus from?
It was from Cotton Patch Gospel.
Wow.
So that is basically Godspell if they were hillbillies. Is basically
Great.
and like in the South. So it was interesting. I had a Southern accent the whole time, and to this day, if I start a Southern accent, which I've now made the mistake of doing, I could get stuck in it the entire night. Okay, but there's something about the Southern accent that it's just like so easy. You're doing less work, and so if you do it a lot, it's really easy to just sit in. But I'm gonna get out of it now.
I had that with my show too,
Yep.
where I was Southern. It's nice. It's nice to talk that way.
The title is.
No, different.
He's taking a lot from my performance.
The Southern
very
accent
subtle.
in rehearsal?
It's more of a feeling.
Subtly Southern.
But
I was Southern in mine too.
Yeah. Jesus is just a Southern guy. But he was always like looking ahead at what was coming. And that just kind of hung over him. And so I was like, I'm going to like go in my basement and enact this in my brain so I have a really clear picture. And about halfway through that, my brain just projected all of my closest friends and family's faces on the people that were lynching Jesus.
Yeah.
And I was like, ouch, that hurts a lot. And the worst was in the triumphal entry. Oop, I bumped my mic. In the triumphal entry, I was like riding in a wheelbarrow. And I was handing out flowers to people. And I handed one out to one of my best friends, Megan, who then would be one of the people that would accuse Jesus and say he needs to die. And so we had this really sweet moment. And every time I would hand it, I was like, I know exactly what's about to happen in half an hour.
Yeah.
And that's hard. But I love you, and here's this flower. But ouch. So it was interesting.
Yeah.
Jordan, what was the thing? What was your project?
You know,
The thing
thing.
Yeah, so I was in a production of Passion the Musical, which is an original show by Piercing Word, which is a ministry in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's the story of Passion Week. I guess not Passion Week, because we start at the Passover supper.
Okay.
And then it finishes with the resurrection.
Yep.
And the ascension of Jesus. So it's like that short. I guess it's not a short time frame because there's the 3 days and then there's
It's only a
the
3-day long show.
Yeah, it's a short time, but it feels like a short time.
Yeah.
We always that's always like the end of a long play about. I mean, it was a 50-minute show. But yeah, so I think the unique thing about that show particularly is that just like all of Piercing Word's other shows, it's all scripture. Everything that's spoken is something that's spoken in, or not spoken, but something that's written in the Bible, taken straight from the ESV is the scripture being
The real
used.
Bible.
Yeah.
I think that's the King James Bible.
Actual. All right. We'll be right back. No, yeah. So everything that was said, everything that was sung, because it was a musical, was scripture, and we didn't just use like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Yeah. I think that's the powerful thing of
Gospel
using
of Thomas. There's
The Judas one.
use the extended
Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, no. So we.
The unique
Yeah,
thing about
scripture.
my Jesus
One
was
of
he
the-
was married.
And I played him.
Yikes. So
I'm great at derailing my own podcast.
you really are.
We don't have to feel bad about that.
No, I don't. But like one of the key elements that was important in this show, and it was like in the set design. We toured, so it was very minimalist. We'd set up in like 10 minutes, which was great. But we had these banners that had prophecies about Jesus on them from Leviticus or Exodus, Moses, and then stuff from Isaiah, and then stuff from the Psalms.
That's cool.
Because even in the Gospels, it talks about how everything written about him. Now I'm going to start quoting my lines. Everything written about him in the Psalms and in the law of the prophets and the Psalms came true, and so that was kind of the whole point of the show, and things that we were able to highlight because we were using scripture, but we weren't just using what was in that portion of the story. We were using stuff from Psalms and from the law and from those things. So we were quoting those things and using narration from other things. So
that's cool.
So it was a very small 5-person cast. I looked out. I was just Jesus. That was it. That was all I had to do. The other cast members played. So we had 3 men and 1 woman. So she played everybody.
Oh gosh.
And then they played everybody else. Disciples and Pharisees and guards and all that stuff. So it was a great cast, but you kind of stole a lot of what I wanted to talk about, but it's good.
There's only so much to say about Jesus.
Yeah. No, just that it was a great experience, and like it was really cool to see us use not just the scripture of the gospel, like the actual story, but kind of using the rest of scripture to point to Jesus, which is what the point of it is. So yeah.
Was there something for you as like a person or like the personality or how you were portraying that character that was kind of a unifying idea for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things. Just like we were saying, like there's so much to Jesus that I think everyone who's ever portrayed him is like, I got to focus on one thing because he's,
too much,
an eternal being. Yeah. It's just like, there's just so much to him because it's Jesus, but also like in extension, God. And there's just so much to him. And I think that seems really daunting at first when you're like, hey, you're going to play Jesus. And you're like, no, because I know that's impossible.
My focus is holding the universe together, particularly the molecules in this leaf.
Yeah, just specifically this.
Jordan, why'd you come to rehearsal with this leaf all the time?
I have to keep it together.
Keep it together, man.
I gotta hold everything in one hand. But yeah, there's just so much to the character of Jesus. It feels weird saying the character, the personality,
right? The person of Jesus that we're portraying, yeah.
And there's so much that we can't portray, just as finite, lame beings that we are.
We're so lame, and we're
so
trying
lame.
to be the non-lame guy.
But one of the things I think, because I also struggled with, because it's, you started talking about it, I was like, oh, I'm going to touch on that too, was going through the motions of like, because normally when you're doing a show, like you kind of have to just focus on that moment and forget all the things you've not forget, but like block all the things you've rehearsed for later in the show, because you're like, that hasn't happened yet. Right. I can't make decisions based on that. But it's so different with Jesus. You're like, I know everything. Which it's nice that you go through a rehearsal process. That makes playing Jesus slightly easier, because you're like, oh, I know everything that's going to happen. Then you're like, how do I do that?
And still make it interesting. So I'm not just floating around serenely like...
Right. And that was a problem I ran to a little bit in rehearsals, and I'd get notes about. And they were just like, things are kind of just, you're just letting it happen. There wasn't a lot of emotion. So I got a note that was like,
that's
really,
okay. It's gonna be fine. It's all gonna work out.
Yeah, guys, it's
You're
good.
up on the cross. Just give me just 3 days, man, and it's gonna be amazing.
It's gonna be fine, guys.
I know I'm bleeding from every orifice right now, but
our director, like the director of I'm just gonna keep going and let you guys catch up. The director of the ministry came and he watched a couple performances and rehearsals and was giving me some notes and stuff, and just really encouraged me to focus on the two things. Like, one was showing emotion because not that I wasn't showing emotion, but showing emotion because,
how about acting?
Yeah, could you just act better? That's the note I got, but I didn't want to say it. No, but like because Jesus didn't not feel emotion.
Right.
He actually felt more emotion than we could ever imagine.
Yeah.
You know, like I was like, that's a lot to think about, but I also get it. So like I can try and show as much as I can, but it's only going to be scratching the surface of what he felt in that moment. But the other thing that I was going to say to answer your question of kind of what I focused on was just the word of compassion.
Yeah.
Which I love that part of compassion is passion, and it was Passion the Musical.
Oh.
So it's like Compassion the Musical. Anyway, so I really focused on compassion and just, because it's just dealing with that very hard situation.
Yeah.
And when I told people I was playing Jesus, I had family being like, can you play a Jesus that's not like stoic and boring? Because like that's how so many people play it. It's like, oh, he's Jesus. And I'm like, I'm going to try, but this is about his dad. Like, it's not, there's not the fun
This is
parts.
maybe the part where he is the most.
We're not doing the fun parts.
Right.
But even when I said that and then I got into rehearsal, it's like, oh no, there is moments of that. And they kept helping me try and find that of like, because like we start and we're singing Psalm 23 and we're getting ready for the Passover and like, they're just like, just enjoy being with your disciples.
Yeah.
And so like, I was just like grinning it up and just enjoying being with my disciples. And kind of like the hardest thing was kind of dealing with Judas. Yeah. Because you have to have such a heart for him. And it's this difficult balance of, I know you're going to do what you need to do. I know you have to do what you have to do. But I still love you, and my heart goes out to you. And so like, I didn't like not think of a certain thing because like it worked, but also it made me laugh because it's the like, I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Like Jesus never hated Judas because he had what he had to do, but it was just like that, like his heart broke for him just as much as everybody else, even more because of that. So like that was a really hard thing, but a very important thing for me. And then like just finding that and like going through the trial sequence that we had, and like just all these moments of people like attacking Jesus, and then when Peter denied, we had this moment, because the scriptures actually say that the Lord turned and looked at him, so we had that moment.
Like a great cinematic moment.
Yeah, it is very cinematic.
Oh, we made
you
it.
You can
cinematic.
see the like Michael Bay camera panning when you read
we had the rooster crow, and then he's like standing there center stage, and they're like, and the Lord turned and looked at him, and I was like, and it almost broke my heart every night, just because like the way the actor that we had played it, and how I like, I just literally like honestly in my head would focus on the word compassion, like compassion. For all those people, all the Pharisees and guards that were mistreating me and all those things, but then just for my disciples that were so broken and lost in that moment of just like, and like the look I tried to throw Peter was like, I forgive you in that moment of like I knew that was going to happen.
I like the idea that's what then broke Peter is the being shown love in that moment, and how it's like, I just betrayed the best person who loves me the most, and that just broke me.
Right.
Yeah.
And then like I let that carry on to the next moment. Like they move on from that moment. Peter like ran out and he changes characters, and all the other characters, they're like moving on. But I kind of stayed in that moment, and I kind of just let that break me a little bit more. And so yeah, compassion was really, and then being up on the cross was just like thinking about really like, you know, as actors we really have to make things personal.
Yeah.
And so some of that works in like you were saying, of like picturing close friends being the people hurting Jesus. What I really tended to focus on was personally thinking about me seeing Jesus up on the cross and like feeling that emotion of how I felt about it, and just really seeing my sins being poured out on him. Just like I would first start focusing on like the things that I've done, the sins that I've done against him, and he's forgiven, but he, you know, has poured out his soul. So I'm just thinking of that like weight being laid on him, and then I just was like, and just multiply that by the thousands of millions of people that have sinned, and all of that is just
which is a pretty low percentage when you take all the billions who have lived.
I mean, yeah. So
It wasn't that bad.
I could only do so much. Okay. I had to stand there.
Right.
Beam.
You had to hold the leaf together.
Jordan's like, I can take on millions of sin, not like Jesus.
But now let's forget about.
That's where I cap off.
So if it's ever too much for you, Nate, just remember Jordan's right there, and he can also take on millions.
Jordan, tap in.
Tap in. I'll tap in.
You guys switch costumes really fast.
The audience is like, ooh, artsy. And we're like, no, he just can't do it.
Can't do it.
Speaking of heresy, that would be a big heresy.
So John, in your production, how many sins did you take on the cross?
But it wasn't as many as mine.
6 billion.
Okay.
There's 1 billion that I didn't take. No,
Okay.
I actually didn't get to portray the crucifixion.
Really?
That all happened off stage. So, which
interesting.
is a little sad for me, but that's fine. It
Well,
it
it's
worked
no
for the story.
cakewalk. I'll let you know that.
I'm sure. I still had to do some stuff backstage because there was sounds that I made.
Right.
But you're on your Game Boy while you're doing it.
Yeah, I'm playing Zelda.
Action figures, just like
All that's actually happening is just I'm rage quitting a video game.
you can hear the grief in his voice.
But
Bowser got him again.
no, they just, which I think was powerful in and of itself, because you just saw Matthew, who narrates the whole story, narrating it, and I played violin in it as well, so he held my violin while he was narrating that, which I think was a cool moment.
Yeah.
And then you just would hear me get choked out because he was lynched, so you would hear me go like,
Wow.
and then
That's
say whatever I said for the like, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, whatever that line was.
Yeah,
it was
just
more
Southern.
hillbilly-ish. Southern. Daddy. No, he always, okay, this was actually really profound. He always called God Daddy.
Yeah.
Which I know.
Because that's
can
like
be
what
an oof.
Abba means.
But it was really, it worked with the
band
Southern.
Abba.
Because I would just be going somewhere, and then I would have an aside, and I'd be like, Daddy, I just don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And there was something really intimate about that has radically, like, transformed the way I connect to God.
I
like
that.
to this point, if I am in a genuinely emotional time spiritually, and I hear God as Daddy, not in a cringe way, because there can definitely be a cringe way to it,
for sure.
but in just a genuine way, like that will bypass everything in my heart and just hit me right to the core. I'm like, oh, this is probably like, I don't know. He said something about Daddy, but I don't remember why I got there. But yeah, I didn't do the crucifixion, but
that's still such a powerful way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes in especially in theater, like what you don't show can be just as powerful as what you do.
I think
show.
so. And then so while I was doing that, I was getting makeup on, which was kind of an interesting thing in and of itself. And they like scarred me up, and then they would carry on my dead body.
Yeah.
So I had just this completely tattered version of the costume that I wore, and movie blood all over me, and prosthetic we did. The crew was like amazing. They were like, there was a thing in my side that they were not sure the audience was going to see ever, but there was enough cuts in my clothing that we were like, if it shifts just right, then we'll have a prosthetic right here so they can see a spear hole.
Wow.
or a knife hole or whatever. So I had, and that was really cool and powerful, and I got carried on, and that was a really great moment. And then we did this was awesome. I'm forgetting the name. I always forget the name, but the Michelangelo's famous statue,
the Pieta?
the Pieta. We did the Pieta with the lady who played Mary. Her name was Brenda. That was really cool. But yeah, I was off stage, so I didn't carry any sins for real. So
the two people that are playing real Jesus.
Let's talk here.
Yeah. Well,
did you guys have any reservations when you were asked to play Jesus?
Oh yeah. Like, it was through the audition process of the show, like, I knew there was a possibility of playing Jesus, and then I was like, I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
But then as soon as I got it, I was like, that is hard.
Yep.
And I think I touched on it, like, we've all touched on it a little bit, of just, like, I think the fear of it is, especially as believers, like, feels like such a taboo thing to touch, because you're just like, how can I even begin to portray the perfectness that is Jesus? So that was definitely a big reservation for me. I was like, how do I even begin to do that? Like, but I think some of what started, like, to help me feel better before we even got into the rehearsal process was just thinking about, like, taking this as an opportunity to be able to go all in with the way that we're called to be like Jesus anyway. Yeah. I was like, we're told to be like Jesus anyway. Now I get to practice that by just being Jesus.
Yeah.
So, definitely had reservations.
Yeah. I thought for years, I would love the opportunity to play Jesus, just to have like what you had, I think, when you played him, that concentrated opportunity to, like, get to know him better by, like, okay, I have to be in him and thinking about how he thinks and stuff, and that would be just really cool spiritually to do. And then I think it was like the night before, or a couple nights before auditions, I went and saw Dune 2.
Oh, yeah.
And
about the guy
I'm
who
like,
decides he's a Messiah.
Yeah. And I'm, like, sitting there and, like, oh, goodness. It's kind of a big and scary deal to have the audacity to say that you're the Messiah. And I'm, like, wanting to audition for this, and, like, I don't know about this now, and it kind of gave me some reservations. So, yeah. But
wow, Dune 2
just wait till
derailed the
I know. Show. And inspired by Dune 2, Nate's going to start a holy war at the end.
We're jumping right to the Crusades.
Oh no.
But yeah, some of the idea of playing him, like we talked about before, a thought that I had that I think is helpful, but I want to hear what you guys think about it, is, so we're all God's creation, and we know he is vast.
I also completed that too.
I thought he was going to stop.
we thought
we're all gods.
We're all gods.
Well,
all right.
That's basically a joke.
That Jesus did say that.
Wait, hang on, where?
Isn't it said in the prophets that you are all gods, and when he's, like, talking to the Pharisees?
Gods as in God's possession, or we are all, like, actual gods? Because I don't know.
Actual, like, lowercase g gods.
I'm curious now.
Yeah.
Oh, my phone is recording. I can't look this up.
No, it's a weird
up,
thing, but we don't need to get into that.
Jordan's looking it up. It's too late. You keep going, and Jordan will interject. Right
So we're all...
This is why you need, like, a producer to, like, do that.
This is in my tiny office.
Jim,
I don't have space for a
producer.
Can you check that out?
Jimmy just appears behind the camera.
But Jim's got it.
But, yeah, I feel like God is so vast and multifaceted, and in us, we are, like, unique parts of, like, as Christians, we're unique parts of his body.
Yes.
And there's just so many parts of that body because there's so many Christians, but we're each unique, and I feel like the good in us is like if he's a huge diamond is like a facet, a little facet of who he is. So I was kind of thinking that when playing him, like I am as his creation and as a Christian, I am already a little Jesus. I'm like a little facet of the magnitude of who he is. So it's almost doing it right in a way. We can't get the fullness of Jesus, but I can, in a sense, be my part of Jesus when playing him. But try to, push aside any of my sinful tendencies.
Yep.
And then that at least shows a little piece of Jesus, because all of us believers are a little piece of Jesus as part of his body.
I resonate with that. I didn't when I was playing it because I was 17. So there was a lot of things I've thought about since then that I know were going on in there that I haven't said. But since then, and since having seen many of my friends play Jesus and been in several other productions where somebody else was playing Jesus, which is really weird after you've played Jesus.
Sure.
I know.
At least
I'm
I
judging
found it
Nate
weird.
every night. Every rehearsal.
It works well because Jordan's playing Satan, so the judgment resonates well.
Legally ensemble member number 9.
Ensemble member
Ensemble
number 9.
number 9. Upside down number 6.
Yeah. Even though there are only 6 other ensemble members.
I still love that you call him ensemble member number 9.
That's how it's sticking. But since then I've been like, this is like I've seen my friend Tyler play him. We all know Rich Garnott to a degree. We've seen him play. Well, we all know Tyler too.
We all know Tyler to a degree.
I know Tyler better.
Yeah, that's true. But so I've seen them. My friend Matt Gomison, I've seen play Jesus. You I've now seen play Jesus. I didn't get to see you play Jesus, which was sad, but that's okay.
I can show you a video.
That would be cool. But I
got
love
footage.
Bring it up. Well, Jim, you got that?
And
Jim?
we'll be playing a clip. Enjoy this 50-minute production.
Now it's a 2-hour episode. Surprise. But just I love, they're all different people, but they also ring true of something of Christ. And I think that is a beautiful representation of who the body of Christ is, because he cannot be captured by one person.
Yeah.
And that means that every portrayal of him will be inaccurate. But it also means every portrayal is going to touch on something that's important about Jesus that somebody needs to see. There were things about my Jesus that were really important for some fellow cast members or for some audience to see. There's some things about your Jesus that are really important for audience or our fellow cast or for me to see. And the same for yours. Even though if you stack them up next to each other, they're pretty different guys if you're just taking them as characters.
Right.
Especially since, there's the factor of they're different shows.
Right. So that in and of itself.
Even in that, each actor, I think you put it in a really good way of each actor who's portrayed Jesus there's been some reason that they've honed in on something that is a piece.
Right.
That, like you said, an audience or a castmate, but I would even go farther of that may be something they need as
That's
an actor.
true. Yeah.
And that just really, playing Jesus is such an eye-opening experience. And I wish every Christian actor is able to
seriously
be able to play a version of
For their
Jesus.
whole life.
But
method act that
even
one.
and it's crazy because even if even if we were able to somehow combine every performance of Jesus ever,
still wouldn't work.
it still wouldn't even measure up at all, but it would still be such a great picture. But now I'm just thinking of those weird half Southern everything else. But even if every
Mush all our
portrayal of
bodies
Jesus
together too.
Now we're just in a horror movie.
every portrayal of Jesus was the same production. Even if we had all done Godspell or all done Passion or all done Cotton Patch Gospel.
Right.
Cabbage Patch Gospel.
Cabbage Patch.
My mom did that all the time.
I bet she did.
She did.
Because I wasn't there to do it. Cabbage Patch Gospel. So, but even if we all did the same production, our Jesus would be all so different.
Well, yeah, because I don't think that we just named 6 characteristics of Jesus that we all honed in on that are all absolutely true of him. that can all be combined into a performance that still wouldn't encapsulate all of him. But we didn't like arrive at those necessarily just because of the show that we were in. Like that was just us examining the person, and then that's what we felt drawn to. So I think you could totally do any of the shows that we did with that in mind.
Yeah, and like even if you were just saying like those were just 6 that we honed in on.
Right.
We definitely probably used pieces and
Oh,
bits
absolutely.
of what other people honed in on, because even though you can't completely encapsulate Jesus, you are still going to draw elements of all these other things.
Yeah, totally.
And you're still going to be playing like 150 different things going on at the same time. You're really going to hone in on 1 or 2 or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
But you're going to play all these different things, and there's still millions and millions and infinity of what you can't play. But we're all still kind of like have those loose connections of, I'm sure there's moments where we're like, oh, I played it like this. And like, oh, I played something very similar like that. And yeah.
Yeah, because I like the idea that anything that is good, Jesus had that characteristic to him. What a full and complex person that is. Because I feel like we know people who are like, okay, this person really embodies joviality. This person's very patient and peaceful. This person is hilarious, you know. But Jesus had like all of that. And so no wonder he was like so attractive to people.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you guys have a memorable story from your performance? Nate, all the times you've done it. It's one of the aspects that you're honing in on prophecy.
Standing ovations, wow.
When you won that Tony for a production in Grand Rapids, what?
Yeah, just think to the future of what
Prophesy,
what
Messiah.
What impacted you?
What's going to impact you? What are you really hoping for?
Yeah. You got it.
Man, a story like...
I don't know.
what
Was
are you
there a
looking for?
moment that like happened that you were like, wow, or we're like, oof, or we're like, aw, or we're like, I don't know. I don't know what other sound effects I can make.
Boing.
That happens in ours.
It does.
That's a couple times. We
What
have a couple
moment
different boings.
playing Jesus did I think, boing?
The Ascension. Boings up into heaven.
Honestly...
I have a derailment thought, but I'm not actually going there.
Just throw it. We'll get back.
Okay, we can always edit this out. I was at the beach last night,
Uh-huh.
and I was like laying on the ground, staring up at the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and I was imagining, you know how like eagles, they can be like so high up that you can't even see them,
Yeah.
and then they'll just like dive down on some
Yeah.
prey. And I was just really tickled by the idea of like a land-based creature or even like a man who would like look up at the sky for an eagle and then suddenly shoosh up straight up and like with his mouth open and suddenly get an eagle. Just super fast.
He will fly on wings like eagles.
Yeah, that's kind of like the
Yeah.
ascension though, right? Yeah.
Great.
We're back.
Yeah, Jesus, it wasn't like what we see when we're like doing productions where they're like the slow lift. I want to see a production where he's like, peace be with you, I will return. Where'd he go? That actually honestly makes more sense.
I think so, because they were all like,
Because they were all like, whoa, where'd he go?
Yeah.
And if he was just like slowly being lifted.
then it's
Give
like
me a
half
minute.
an hour
Give
of
me a
him
minute,
just
guys.
like, beep, beep.
Think about that speed, but how long it would take for him to like disappear.
He's
into
having
Right.
to hold his arms like
They're
this
just-
the whole time.
Is he? Are you gonna come back down?
You guys can just go home. This will take a bit.
I'm all powerful, but my invisible elevator up to heaven. That's where it starts. To,
It's like a genie lift at best. It's just beep. Okay. Anyway, so
we got so serious. Just like
I'm trying to think of moments. Yeah. There's just so many.
Peter
I think
moment,
one
that
of
was a
my-
good one.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Tell
a
us
full
about that
moment.
again.
So basically what happened was, yeah, there's just so many moments in the show, and like some of it was being Jesus. Other moments were like, it's hard when you're in a production like that, because it's like I mean, definitely it's true. My other actors were terrific, and they gave so much.
Yeah.
But it also helped encourage me that I was giving what they needed because of their reactions. I mean, a mini memorable thing. I kind of wanted to touch on this just to like praise my friend. But the girl playing all the women. She was Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
The other Mary.
The other Mary.
Like she literally like as she's narrating, she's like Mary, this Mary, this Mary, and you're playing all of them just by putting your little scarf over your head.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so there's the scene, and I'm not even in it, but I think just the whole show affected her in such a way that the angel comes out after the resurrection to announce to Mary that he's risen, and it's this really fun like up-tempo song, and he's like riffing, and it's a very talented friend of mine, and he's just like singing this beautiful song, and during the first verse she's like out there reacting to it, and then she eventually like leaves to let him finish the song. But every time she came backstage, I'm waiting to go on to reveal myself to her, but she comes backstage, and pretty much every time she was just crying. It was just so powerful of a show. And I'm like, I love how it's like affecting us that much. And like how often we've rehearsed this, it still affected her every show. Very similar thing with the guy because the guy who played the angel also played Thomas. So we had this cool moment of coming out and when he, because he's singing about, unless I put my fingers in the nails in the nail holes, unless I put my hand in his side, I won't believe. And then I come out and I go, peace be with you. And then I'm like, put it here. And like he comes in, put her there. And I'm like offering my side, which is like a torn t-shirt.
Put her there.
A little funny thing I did was I realized that because the way we did it was like I had a red t-shirt on, and on top of that was a white t-shirt that was ripped, and I changed into that. That's how, and then like tore off the shirt that was on top of that when they scourged me. But then when I go and resurrect, I change shirts so it was a white shirt under the ripped white shirt. So it was still ripped, like the wounds were still there, but they were healed and they were, So it was like, but there was one rip in the side here, and I think it wasn't on purpose at all, but I was like, oh, that's kind of great. So I'm walking in, like, put your hand within my side. And I one night I grabbed his hand and I put it in the shirt. That was really fun for me because I'm like trying to enjoy this moment. But yeah, just seeing like the pure shock but joy in his face every night.
Yeah.
And it's going to take too long to explain why it's a funny joke for the people that I was with. But we always kind of had this running joke about just kind of like, we call it a neck grab, when you like grab somebody's like face this kind of thing. It's just a very like important, intimate moment.
Yeah.
And it's weird when anybody does it, but then when Jesus does it, you're like, this is right. This is okay. So that was another thing I kind of honed in on, was just like connecting with everyone. You go.
I was imagining we were talking about the facets of Jesus, and so I'm like, there's one man out there who's the perfect neck grabber, and he reflects that part of Jesus.
He's such a good neck grabber. No, but like, it kind of, I'm glad I did it. Like, it's funny, the things that's like start off as a joke.
Yeah.
Just for fun in rehearsals, and you're like, oh, I'm not actually going to do that. And then you're like, no, wait. So like, I made it a point to have, because we also had these other moments where our director was like, the way they staged it, there was a moment with almost every disciple where I got low with them and like would lift them up in a way, whether it was like the foot washing or with Mary when she's like, she falls down and I come pick her up. It's like, I haven't ascended to my Father yet, go tell them.
Yeah.
Or and then the moment with Thomas, like we're singing to each other and he drops down and then I like pick him up and raise him up. So that was a moment, but I made sure that like I had a moment with everyone of some way of, it started off as a joke of like, I'm gonna like grab your neck at some point in the show to the actors, but then it came this moment of like connecting with each one of them individually.
Yeah.
And so just finding that connection, and like even having those moments where when it's really started to affect them and they're having tears. Like there was one moment where I was doing the one of my last songs that was the Great Commission.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like I have a moment with each one, and I'm commending them, and I'm giving them the Great Commission. And I get to my friend who was playing Judas, and now he's playing one of the other disciples, because we have 4 people to be all 12.
So that's 3 disciples
Bartholomew,
per person.
one of the ones we don't talk about.
We joked our woman was
Actually,
both.
I think one of ours is Bartholomew. I think. Or is he Philip? I don't remember. Anyways, I gave them all ones they're inspired by.
Oh, that's fun.
But
we even had a joke that the woman played both James and John.
Uh-huh.
We were like, you are the sons of three. But then I went to my friend who was playing Judas, and now he was, I think, John. He said he later became John. And towards the end of the run, I don't know what necessarily was affecting him as much, but he would start to tear up in that moment. And so he had tears running down his face. And I just took this moment to hold his head.
yeah.
And then some nights I just went with my, impulse, and would just wipe away those tears. And at first, like doing it in that moment, I was just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do this for him, like so that he's not crying all over the stage. And then like I get to the next person, and I'm like going on and having my moment, and then it finally hits me, and I go, like, think about he will wipe away every tear, and I'm just like, no, I'm gonna cry now, and I have to sing, and yeah. So just a lot of beautiful moments of being able to connect with. In a way, that show was also very much about community, but I think every story about it has to be.
Well, because the church is his body, and he inaugurates the church. That's part of the gospel.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then there's just not to keep like talking about all these other moments. One of my favorite moments though in it was doing the Passover, so breaking the body and sharing the blood, and so we did all the scripture, and I'm doing the things, I'm passing out the things, and I'm calling out Judas. I felt like I called out Judas a lot at the beginning of the show. It felt like every 2 seconds I was like, one of you will betray me. Someone will betray me. You know what you have to do. Like I'm always looking at him at that moment. I'm like, I'm just really calling.
Do you want some dip, Judas?
Pull out the bowl.
Delicious olive oil. Judas, the one who's dipping his bread in the olive oil, is going to betray me. You want some, Judas?
So calls him out.
Not that moment with John. Who's it gonna be? The one who dips. Judas, have a little dip.
The one who dips. What if Judas was just like, but I love an olive oil dip, man.
I just love it.
I just gotta get some.
I can't.
That was his downfall.
All right, okay. You got it out of me. But no, yeah. So we go through the whole
Judas.
thing, and then we had this beautiful.
Sorry.
You guys want to step out? I'm just gonna keep talking.
Step out and talk about my love for bread and olive oil.
Who doesn't love bread and olive oil?
Nate.
Gluten free sounds nice.
This guy.
That guy. It's good that you guys don't have to break bread.
We're trying to find some good
Like gluten-free, like...
bread. I have a contact them.
Oh, cool. Is it circular? I really want the circular image.
Oh,
I don't need to have a
something
production
rounded.
meeting.
I
Yeah.
Oh, we did. We
Okay.
had. Yeah, I don't know if you can get it gluten free, but we had like naan.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Is what we were supposed to have, because we were touring. We would often forget our bread, so we'd get to the venue and we're like, "Do you have any bread?" So one time I'm like breaking a baguette. The worst.
Oh,
moment.
gosh.
That was like the best night. It was like a loaf of bread, and I'm like, break it.
Yeah.
But then the next morning we had our worst one, which was they were like, here's half a donut hole. And so I literally had a donut hole, and I went,
Oh no!
divided among everybody.
Here, you get a
Ripping
crumb
it.
of the Eucharist.
It
today.
was bad.
It's kind of like how communion is now, really.
Yes,
So small.
It's like a little tiny thing. No, but my favorite moment of that was like, then we'd go into this a cappella song, which was literally just like so short in one line. It was just, take this and do this in remembrance of me. Everybody sang all the way up to remembrance of, and then everybody stopped singing, and I sang me with the cup held out. But it was just this beautiful, I think just the chords and things that we were saying was just so beautiful. But like just that picture of Jesus leading in communion was just really cool.
That's awesome.
And then just being able to talk with people afterwards, because we'd be prayer partners. So like if people needed prayer, they'd come down to the front and we'd talk to them, and just getting the opportunity. They always, whenever I volunteered to be a prayer partner or to help with something, they were like, "Can you?" Even if I didn't volunteer to be a prayer partner, some people would hand things out or things like that afterwards. And if I didn't have a job, they were just like, "Can you just stand where people can see you?" Because everybody always wants to talk to Jesus.
Right.
And I was like,
yeah,
I'm not Jesus, but like, sure, they can come talk to me.
Yeah.
But just getting to like talk to people and see how it affects people is just really cool.
That is cool.
I've gone on way too long.
So. Yeah, come on, Jordan.
But I guess he doesn't have stories to
things,
share. So
You might. What has there been cool things or a cool moment that you get to do that's been really rich?
Yeah, one I was thinking about was there's a song where one of the disciples is singing a thank you to God song.
Yeah.
And it starts out, but then it kind of turns it towards Jesus, and he the look in his face, Spencer, the character, is so loving and like grateful, because it's a very grateful to God song, and how his voice is so beautiful and his face is so sincere. And at the end of the song, Jesus comes down like from like his stairs and comes down and has a great moment with him, and I'm just like looking at Spencer as if I'm Jesus, and I'm just like loving him so much, and he's looking back very like grateful. And at the end of his song, we decide like we kind of have a thing of Jesus and Spencer. We do like kind of like a soft like head touch together, and then a hug, and it's just so sweet. And like I want to just like ponder that more and like just realize that kind of heart is like how Jesus feels about us, but of course more and better.
That's one of my favorite moments of the whole show. It gets me, and that's one of my favorite songs. So I love that beautiful moment is in one of my favorite songs.
Yeah,
it's cool. Thanks for tuning into this episode, guys. Part 2 is going to release next Friday, so it's going to be an earlier episode than usual. Still a lot of great conversations to come about our experiences playing Jesus. We'd love to have you guys tune in, so we will see you next week.